It gets me all hot and bothered.
What?
In a negative way.
In a negative way?
Because we just discussed this off air.
Yeah.
We'll surprise the audience by pretending we don't know.
What could it be, Caleb? Do tell.
Ho, ho, ho. Well, when you go into the bookstore and you find a really cool book with a fancy cover and gold pages, but then when you go to buy the book, Barnes & Noble, they slap on that big ugly sticker on the back, and you get home and you go to peel it, and it doesn't peel off, does it, Spencer?
It
never just comes right off.
Nope.
Borders used to have high quality stickers. You'd buy a book from Borders, comes right off.
The half-price books.
Half-price book stickers, comes right off.
And a lot of times their books are shit. So it's why bother trying to keep them pristine? But they do.
Yeah. But for some reason, Barnes & Noble, the main bookseller in the United States, their fancy edition books, they slap those big fucking stickers on, and they just rip, and it's just, they super glue them.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
And then even if you do get the sticker off, there's still a sticky patch.
Always residue. I have so many books that have sticky residue. Now, there's another issue that also bothers me about the stickers. They have the technology to not do it.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the other bookstores. Barnes & Noble specifically has the technology not to do it, because I buy certain books from Barnes & Noble that have the sticker on it that come right off. They have the easy peel stickers. They also, what they'll do with the collector's editions that I usually buy, they have them wrapped.
Yeah.
And then the stickers on the wrapping. I brought this up because I just recently purchased this Le Morte d'Arthur, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table by Sir Thomas Malory. I found a very pristine, fancy edition of this book. Very cool. But on the back, and you folks can see this on my Instagram at CalebJames1986. I posted, actually I made it in my story, so you probably can't see it anymore. Sorry about your luck, but they put this big fucking sticker off, and I could not peel it properly.
And what did the sticker even say?
It was just a barcode price tag sticker. Just a garbage sticker, a generic sticker that did not need to be there. You know what else is atrocious?
What's that?
Some booksellers put the sticker on the inside page, and it rips the page sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's infuriating. I'm trying to think, because I also have other sticker-related grievances that I don't think are related to books, but I can't quite remember. Oh, yes, I do. I remember. When I go grocery shopping, this is off topic, but it's adjacent topic. I purchase certain items, and the barcode is in an inconvenient place that it cannot scan. And I go through the self-checkout all the time. One of the worst ones are coffee creamers, because they've always put the barcode. It's not Walmart or whatever store you're buying it from. It's the actual company put the barcode on the wonky bit that's rippled. Yeah. So you can never get a good barcode scan.
Or a lot of them on the base will have an upside bowl, indentation in the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And it'd be along there and in that little bowl, and it's how can you scan that?
Now, where the Walmart and other distributors of fine groceries are at fault is when it comes to prepared meals. Oftentimes, the employee, who probably doesn't care about their job, I imagine, does not put that sticker on the top, the nice barcode sticker that you can easily scan, nor do they put it on the bottom so you can swipe it across the register scanner. No, they put it
across the side.
They put it right over the line where the package opens, so you cannot fucking get it to scan without straightening it out. If you don't rip it, usually it rips, then you're fucked. If you can manage to straighten it out, now your product's open.
Yeah.
Why is there no training for that? Do they train for that? I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not, but it infuriates me. These are the injustices of the world that bother me on the subconscious level.
Yeah.
These are those little micro aggravations, I call them,
that slowly build up into a festering rage that gets taken out on some poor soul that had nothing to do with any of it.
Yeah. So
screw you, old lady, for pulling in front of me.
So when you are going through the same 5 traffic lights for the 80th time this year, and then they turn red right before you get to the light every fucking time, and there's no cars going the other way, and then it sets you off and you get out and you just start running naked through the street screaming, it probably started with the stickers.
It's probably the stickers' fault.
I'm using that as an example because I'm not at the level. I think because of my age now, I don't think I would get violent in public. Maybe, but some people, they just get very violent in Waffle Houses. I find a lot on the internet.
A lot of times in Waffle Houses.
It seems to be the Waffle House is not. It's not a ill house of refute. I think it's refute. This is gonna go into the episode where we're not so smart.
Yeah.
So that's fine that we fucked that up.
A little bit of primer.
Yeah, a little primer. But what is that buzzing?
Oh, I thought that was just in my head.
No, you know what? That is the wine cooler.
Oh, the damn wine cooler.
Fucking wine cooler that I put beer in that doesn't fit properly. Another annoyance. The shelves do not fit beers. They only fit wine bottles, and I don't drink wine. So that was a gift that was almost good.
Almost. Not quite, but
and I looked up the shelves, and they're like $150 to buy new shelves. So
is that like per shelf for like a set of shelves?
I don't know. For the specific shelves, they're more than the refrigerator cost. Very stupid. So, folks, I don't think we need to talk about our grievances anymore, but if you agree with some of those, we would love to hear it. And if you have micro grievances of your own, micro aggravations, as I call it, I would love to hear about them, and maybe we'll discuss them on air, because I'm sure we share
I was just thinking that should just be the new cold open every week. Is just
That's not a good. I need a new term that I can say better. Micro aggravations.
Yeah.
You have any off the top of your head you want to name before we go? You got 10 seconds. 10.
Life.
Like, well, that's a macro aggravation. You know what, Spencer? For shame.
For shame.
Here's one. When I drive in cars with people and they don't ever put their seatbelt on, it just beeps and beeps and beeps and beeps. I'm like, put the fucking seatbelt on. I hate it. So anyway, folks, stick around, and we have a spectacular episode today. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, the self-anointed, because you gave this name yourself for some reason, Spencer, the Denver Dildo Dealer Church.
I kind of feel like the little kid in Big Daddy who got to pick his own name.
I wipe my own ass. Cole Sprouse, by the way, folks, just in case you're wondering, that kid grew up to be... Actually, it was both of the Sprouse brothers in that movie, I believe.
One of them.
I'm not speaking into my microphone. Or is my voice just not carrying... Okay. You know what we're talking about, Spencer?
No, I don't, actually.
How dumb we are. But as a precursor to how dumb we are, I wanted to discuss something very magical.
Okay.
I never thought about this. We always talk about, like we've done many times on this, the most challenging books, the most difficult books, things like that, like Finnegan's Wake is the biggest example. That always comes number one or in the top 5. Because that one's so indecipherable, people don't even consider that something you'd read. So then they maybe go into like Gravity's Rainbow or Infinite Jest or one of those other infamously difficult books. But I was wondering, is there an actual reading level? Like, what do they use in schools? Turns out there is. It's called Lexile levels. So they're high Lexile books. I believe the limit is 2,000 or something. So
now, is this for like a high school or college? Like, how do they...
I believe this is just used in schools in general. So most likely the higher ones would be high school and college level. But I don't see why this couldn't carry over to adulthood where people usually read less.
Yeah. I know plenty of people that are probably pretty low.
Pretty low
on this scale.
Well, this scale might make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
So,
as most scales do.
Yeah. Before we actually get into the episode of us, because I had a couple other things I wanted to discuss that are more random topics, I wanted to bring up this quick list of just the highest Lexile books, and I don't think there are any 2000s on here, whatever the records are. Maybe it's 1500. It doesn't say on this, but these would still be considered the most difficult books for probably high school kids, I'm going to say. So, and this is no particular order, The Hobbit by Tolkien.
Really?
That has a level of 1,000. Now, remember, I said I'm pretty sure 2,000 or 2,500, 1,500 to 2,500, somewhere in there is like the most Finnegan's Wake, like super unreadable or something. So 1,000. So this is a high level book, but on this list, it's considered one of the low ones. But I'm very surprised by that. I don't know how they come up with this, but having read The Hobbit, I will say just because the language and the way it's written, I can understand. Even though that's a kid's book, quote unquote, that's actually for modern audiences, I would say an adult book. Not even a young adult, an adult level reading, which just shows you how we've fallen as a readership in this country. And this, obviously, I'm going by U.S. metrics here. I don't know what this would fall, worldwide.
Probably higher.
Probably higher. This next one I have not heard of. It is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine. That has a level of 1,020. Fever Crumb by Philip Reeve has a level of 1,000. Into the Wind by John Krakauer. That is a 1,270. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. That is 1,090. Hatchet, which I read in third or fourth grade. That's a level 1,020, so it's higher than The Hobbit.
Yeah.
That's where I'm starting to get a little confused. Hatchet is a difficult read compared to more difficult than The Hobbit. No way. That was like, I think that's a young adult book, or what we would consider a young adult level at this point, at most. Like I thought it was an easy read in fourth grade or whatever. Of course, we did have all the summaries and packets and everything we had to follow, but I remember, because when I was in school, I used to, if I could, I would read the book in a day or two just to be done with it. I didn't go by the chapters like we were supposed to. So that was like a one-dayer for me. Next up, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. That's 1,000. The Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. That's 1,230. I've never heard of that one.
No.
The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. That is 1,090. The Bad Beginning. This is by Lemony Snicket. That's 1,010. The White Stag by Kate Sarady. That's 1,020. Perfect Princess, 1,200. That's by Meg Cabot. And obviously, I'm not stopping on a lot of these ones that I haven't read, or the ones that are very obvious, like Wizard of Oz, we already know. So this is where we get a little interesting, because I know you read this one, so I'll have to go by your metric. War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. That's a 1,170 level. So it's higher than the rest so far. Do you consider that a difficult book?
No, not really.
Well, if we were going by the school metric, would that be a high school read, elementary read, middle?
I would probably say like middle school.
Think that could be read
middle school? Yeah,
like
middle school, maybe like 9th grade at the, freshman.
The Hero and the Crown by Robin McKinley, 1,050. Dog Days by Jeff Kinney, that's 1,010. Animal Farm by George Orwell. I think we did that in 5th grade. That's 1,090.
But I could see where that one could be.
That was an easy one too.
But I could see where that would maybe be higher just because of like all like
the allegory
and stuff like that. So I could see where that one could be a little bit higher.
That's one not on reflection. I don't exactly know why we did that in middle school. That seemed like that should be a high school read.
Yeah. We
read a lot of things in middle school that I would say most of us probably didn't understand fully like that. We didn't get all the the illusions and stuff that are in that book. A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. That is 1,150. The Pearl by John Steinbeck is 1,010.
Have you read that one?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy read. I think that's a fair assessment. Life, the Universe, and Everything by Douglas Adams is also 1,010. Again, also an easy read. Now, this is again where I get a little suspicious here. So, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne is only a 1,030.
Oh, really?
I think that's probably a high school reading level just because, well, it depends on the translation you get, but just because of all the scientific, Moby Dick style scientific jargon.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised like Moby Dick hasn't made an appearance yet.
Again, I don't know what the metrics are for this. Are we going by high school, middle school? Because a lot of, like we said, a lot of these are middle school books, I would say. The Case of the Bizarre Bouquets by Nancy Springer, that's 1,020. And I noticed a lot of the lower ones are also newer books. Most of the ones after 2010 or so. Heidi by Joanna Spyri is 1,000. Love That Dog by Sharon Creech is 1,010. The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling is 1,080. Empire of the Sun by J.G. Ballard is 1,130. And this list is almost over. I'm still the one that perplexes me the most is The Hobbit. I don't understand how that's considered like compared to the Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's easy, but the language used in the naming, like the names of the characters and stuff, I don't see how even high school kids would be able to find that as an easy read. Like you actually have to pay attention to it at least.
Though, but like
it's not difficult, but it's not easy either. It's not 1,000 on this list.
Maybe they're doing factoring the nerds, like all the nerds.
I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? That just would go through that stuff like water.
Yeah, okay. This one so far I think is the highest rated one. The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace by Jeff Hobbs, 1,220. There might have been another 1,220 on the other side. I don't remember. The Mysterious Howling by May Rose Wood is 1,000. Little Women by Louise May Alcott is 1,090. The Wolves of Willoughby Chase by Joan Aiken is 1,020. Lockdown by Alexander Gordon Smith is 1,010. Now that's the list. When I originally looked up that list, it was because I was wondering what level high school books were, and am I just dumb? But I'm thinking they probably don't teach Moby Dick outside of advanced English or advanced literature in high school. Same would go for probably any of the big classics we think of. I was trying to say, like, Les Mis or Anna Karenina, War and Peace. I don't think they're even doing those in high school.
Probably not.
I'd be surprised if they do Moby Dick.
They probably wouldn't do it just because of the name Dick in the title.
Yeah, you can't have the gender stuff anymore.
It's Moby them.
It's Moby they. I would think that Huckleberry Finn, while it's not a challenging read, probably is left for advanced classes now just because of the subject matter. I would like to investigate that more with all the book banning going on to see what classics are banned. Because that seems really disgusting, And for some reason, I feel like the South wouldn't ban Huckleberry Finn. That would be the one they want to keep.
Yeah. It just give you say the word all the time.
Well, that segues into another part of this episode I wanted to discuss was our intelligence level, Spencer. I like to think that I'm a fairly, at least at this point in our reading careers, I'm a fairly higher level reader now.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to point out that I'm smart enough to know how dumb I am.
Yes.
I'm smart enough to know how smart I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I can read Ulysses, the Iliad. I can read any of these books. Challenge level doesn't matter. The issue for me is the comprehension of a lot of it. So when it comes to a Ulysses, we'll use Blood Meridian as a better example because that's one we both kind of read.
Mm.
While I could have read the entire book, read summaries, watched movies, did all that extra work and understood it fairly well, I don't think I can ever understand the text as written, like just straight off. I don't think my intelligence level is just that high. Another thing just comes with training as well. Neither of us are university educated. We never went through the classes of how to read classic literature or got the books like Read Like a Professor, all that stuff. So we can't break down these things. I don't even say it's not that we can't break down. I think it's
we just don't
want to.
Yeah.
So I don't know what level of laziness is brought up there, but I find the higher end readers, like the people who really get the most out of fine literature, are the ones who they'll read one book for a whole year, and that's the only book, and not just read it, reread it, break it down, read it multiple times, not just in their lifetime, maybe even like every year they read it once or something. We do not do that.
Well, what it is that we don't study whatever it is that we're reading.
We still are. I feel like I'm probably a little more so than you, breaking from the just reading for pure entertainment.
Yeah.
I think I'm at the point now where I don't necessarily study the work because we both watch summaries and stuff, and we do like to get more meaning from the stuff, but we're not buying like the companion books and stuff. We're not, you don't read a novel and then immediately, well, I'm going to read the novel that's written about the novel.
Yeah.
Like, so I could study it and all this stuff. I am starting to get to that point. Like I said, I got Ulysses, but I got the Cambridge edition that has all the essays and stuff in it. But that's more along the lines of, I just want to understand the book.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm reading the Iliad, I end up skipping most of the preface, all the introduction and stuff, because I don't care. I just want the story, I don't know if you ever go down that road where it's like you read a book that's kind of challenging and you want to look more into it. I find like the video essays, not only is that the easiest route, but for me, I understand those more. I think when you read a lot of the dry academic stuff on these works, you just get, it's the same as reading the work. You're just like, I'm falling asleep. I don't care. But we've had this discussion before, though. It's like, are you just reading for pure entertainment? Are you reading for more? I'm like in the middle now. So I'm not just reading for pure entertainment. I pick things that I think will challenge me and I'll learn from. Have you gotten to that level yet, do you think?
Not particularly.
Have you had any interest, though, in getting that? Because I know you've mentioned, like, oh, I may want to read Dante's Inferno or the Divine Comedy. And stuff
but that's a story that I've always heard about. And that's always been something that has piqued an interest in me. So it's not still like, oh, I want to learn how, whenever it was written, playwriting from wherever it was and whoever wrote it or whatever. It's just like, I know like the basic concepts and like, with all the circles of hells and all that things and stuff. And it seems interesting and something that I've always kind of wanted to check out. But it's still as something I want to experience, or because I don't think those would be maybe as entertaining or George Footery, but like I said, just more of like, this is just the thing that I've heard a whole bunch about, and I want to check it out, but I don't have like this like need to be like to read it and try to.
So from the academic side, even if you read it, you're not going to go and find out the whole biography of Dante.
Probably not, no.
Or try to break down all the the meanings and where he came up with the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're fucking by the time I get done with it, and I'm like, wow, like I need need more, but. Yeah, I haven't ever really got into the academic, part yet.
I think what for me is it's more about the stuff that interests me.
Yeah. And
as a writer, I find a lot of the writing devices used interest me and the language used. So that's kind of what draws me in. And I credit Tolkien for that, because when I read those Lord of the Ring books, that really shifted my perspective of, oh, you could really like do interesting things with just the language, and not just the what does this word mean, but what could this word mean? What else could it mean? Which is more of a Shakespearean side, is where you go, oh, you read this and you think it means this, but it actually means something else. And then that's kind of when I started to get into the not just more difficult literature, because I always like classic literature, even like the Steinbecks and the Hemingways and stuff. But those aren't difficult reads. But then I started getting into like, James Joyce, and even to a degree like David Foster Wallace, like, more contemporary stuff, Cormac McCarthy. And I just find that it's really interesting how people, even if I don't like the story and I think the work is kind of dull or boring, I could better appreciate the work that went into it. It's more like it's like when you if you learn how to build tables or something, or you're a woodworker and you're shit, you're not good at it at all, but you've done it enough where when you see somebody who could do it really well, you're like, oh shit, that's really difficult. Where some people just see a rocking chair, you go, holy fuck, that thing is amazing.
Well, I get that. I always have that with my comics, I know enough to where you look at being, oh yeah, that's just somebody just draw a figure and then whatever. But I look at that page and I know I can tell the 15 hours that the person spent working on that page, and all the minor details, and the angles and the camera angles and all the perspective and stuff like that.
See, a lot of times when I read comic books, I almost gloss over the artwork, which a lot of people do. I don't necessarily, unless it's really amazing, I don't generally just go, oh shit, just the shading on this and the coloring, and then whoever the inker was, you could really break it down and just oh, this is amazing. I do better appreciate comic book art now that I watched a manga documentary, it's probably about a year ago now, and I just watched how the guy, it was an older guy who was he started working in the 70s and 80s, how he goes about drawing mangas, and just you see the technique where it's literally just lines that don't look like anything, and you never can guess the perspective he's drawing until all of a sudden wait a minute, that's a face?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a hand.
Yeah.
And then it just comes out amazing. That guy was obviously a master, so it came out really quickly, but some people, you could just see how long it takes them, but you never really know unless you tried your hand at that.
Well, and that's even whenever we go to conventions and I get a commission, I always at least like to try to catch it in progress and watch the guy work on it just for a couple minutes, because it's just fascinating. I could stand over somebody's shoulder and just watch them just work out from beginning to end, because it's fascinating to me and just to see it like you said, because it just starts out as a couple lines and it just slowly starts to take shape and form.
Yeah, that stuff is just really fun.
I love those time-lapse videos. I mean, I would watch them if they put them out for the full time it did, but nobody ever wants to put out a video for that long of doing a head
20
sketch.
hours. I get lost in all kinds of things like that, like Todd McFarlane videos, he does the digital art, and just the way he does it so quickly and efficiently, because he's been doing it so long. I get lost in that. Sometimes, it's another one that I went down a long wormhole for this, and it's amazing, and I have no skill at it. I tried my hand at just wood carving, and I'm not that good at it. Sculptors, that do marble statues. I watched a couple videos of people,
when they're just chiseling it out of a block.
Well, even before that, they have to do the clay model just so they can see what it's going to look like to come up with the original shape, and then they, before they start chopping into anything. And I'm just like, there's no way this blob's going to be, oh my fucking God, that's amazing. Like within like instants.
Oh, did you see? I remember. I think this was a thing that was bigger a couple years ago. But like people like doing shit like that with like chainsaws into trees and stuff. And it's like it's a chainsaw. How much detail can you get?
And they do.
You'd be surprised.
Well, what really blew my mind, I'm going to see if I can find the actual artist who did this.
Or have you ever seen any videos with artists where they're drawing with both of their hands at the same time on the same picture?
Yeah, that's like a weird brain
like,
thing that I can't even comprehend that.
Like, yeah, how does that like process that? How's your mind able to process all that information? It's crazy.
Okay, so there's a few, but this I guess it's a technique I just find so amazing. So this is a general one. It's a general one. It's called the Veiled Virgin. I can't find who was the one who carved this. But when they do the veils on the fucking marble.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, that's just crazy to me. And then the other one that was real famous is, who is it? Why does it, fucking Google sucks. It's not even showing the whole one. Like this one, I can't find the name of this. But, like, if you look, like when you see
with the feet, yeah.
Yeah, but he has a whole I don't know if it's supposed to be Christ, but it looks like a body with a silk blanket draped over him or a cloth, and it looks amazing. How do you even think to be like
well, you can make a rock look like it's like
real
fabric.
Well, wasn't it Michelangelo who did like the statues where you could see the individual muscles that would only flex if the person moved their pinky a certain way? And like, a certain tendon pops out if you moved your hand a certain way, and like it was so detailed that most people wouldn't even realize.
Especially back then.
Yeah,
like it would make sense to be able to do something like that now with today's technology.
But that's the thing. Most modern sculptors, if they're there's not too many of them probably, they can't do that work. Like they're just not that. You have to be genius. I think that's one of those things.
But that's like like Da Vinci too, like just a ridiculously smart guy.
Or another one that gets me. When you see those realistic drawings people do, and it looks like, usually they're like pencil and stuff, but when you watch them do it, it looks like a photograph, but then you see them doing it, it's like, are you even drawing on it? I can't understand how this is formed. Like, it just looks like a 100% photograph. Usually they have water on the face, like so much detail. Yeah. So much detail that like the art's so amazing that it's not amazing because you just think I could just take a photograph then
right.
At this point.
You think it's almost like AI or, before the AI became like a big thing, like, somebody just scanned this picture and did like some kind of filter over it or something.
Yeah, just made it black and white. I wish I had the acumen to be like an amazing artist, but I don't. I can barely draw well. I can barely draw well, but we are slightly above average guys at best. I'd like to think I'm a better writer than some people, but I don't know at this point.
It's so weird too with that because like, there's so many writers, but it seems like there's never any writers around.
Yeah,
that you can be like, well, I'm better than that guy, but I feel like he got a leg up on me. But that guy over there, I know I can write way better than him. Like it's a weird thing. You have to go online, and it's a hard thing to measure.
One thing that makes me happy in this world is the rare times where I give a chance, like to an author I don't know, and I read a bad book. And not even just like a bad story or a story I don't connect with, but just a bad book, bad writing, or like a Chuck Palahniuk haunted, just garbage. Like, because when I read those things, especially when they're from well-to-do authors who are famous or at least make a living doing it,
a little glimmer of hope.
I'm like, holy shit, I'm better than this guy. Like, I could actually write. Like, this is gonna sound super fucking arrogant. When I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, the writing style, like 100%, I feel I could have wrote The Road because
with the style,
the exact style he used in that book is very minimalistic. Obviously, he doesn't use like punctuation that much, like the quotations and stuff. So I have a leg up on that, but that's just the style. But even just going into the way it's written and the story itself, I've come up with thousands of ideas like that. I just never fleshed them out because they don't seem like something worth. While really, like, that's not going to become popular. But because he was already famous, he's able to write that and it wins him a fucking Pulitzer Prize. When I read something like that, I'm like, I can write like that, which is good. That's not my writing style, but I can write like that. So when I read things like that, it makes me happier. Now, like even going to like reading like The Hike by Drew McGarry, when I read that, it motivated me just because like there's so much imagination.
Yeah, it was like something different.
But it showed you that you could throw everything at the fucking wall and still have a cohesive story that's fun and great. So I like things that expand your mind like that, especially when you don't expect it to, you know? Because we picked that book because it was on a list of weird books.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was going to be a good book.
Right.
I thought it was going to be a weird book. Like, things like that just make me happy because it motivates me, and I think that's what I need lately because I haven't been writing very well just because I haven't felt like it. But I think a large part of that is because the literature I've been reading.
I was just going to say, do you think that's because of coming off Jerusalem and now you're going into...
Well, I read Jerusalem, Shakespeare, the Iliad. These are all things that I'm not going to be able to not just emulate, but they're just not going to motivate me to write because, like, Jerusalem did a little because of the writing devices used. I was like, okay, that's cool. But when it comes
that
to...
probably more gave you, like, ideas more than anything. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I could do that. I could see how I could use that for something.
Yeah, but it also brought me down because I was like, I could never write this. Like, there's a lot in here that I could never even begin to fathom how he created it. But when it comes to, like, Shakespeare and stuff, that's... When I read that, it's like, you don't even get the idea. It's like when you watch, like, an NBA game. Like, sometimes they make it look so easy. You're like, I used to be pretty good at basketball. If I really worked hard, I probably could have played professionally or something. But then if you played against, like, one of those guys. Like, I played against
I could have maybe went to college if I just put in the time and the effort.
Well, I played, like, pickup games with, like, D2 guys. I think even some D1 guys that are, like, 6'7" and stuff. And the difference.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, holy shit. And they weren't even playing it. They just used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they weren't fucking currently D1, D2 athletes. They just used to be. And you play against them like, oh no, I never had a chance.
Yeah.
Never had a shot. That's with writing. Sometimes you read a book and you're like, yeah, if I'm reading Shakespeare, I don't have it. I can't compete with that at all. But Chuck Palahniuk, I feel like I could write his books. I only read Haunted, so I can't really judge, but I'd imagine Fight Club's not difficult. Well, even Steinbeck, a lot of I read all of Steinbeck's stuff. I could write that.
Yeah, just because it's not necessarily difficult does not necessarily mean that it's not good or what to do or
even challenging.
Yeah.
But just like H.P. Lovecraft, I can't compete on that level with the way he wrote.
I don't know if I would want to.
No, like a Faulkner, I'm not competing with Faulkner.
What about
Hemingway? I could.
What about Conan?
Robert D. Howard, I could compete with Robert D. Howard. I'd probably do my versions if I was writing Sword and Sorcery and stuff would not be. I mean, but they'd be modernized probably. So you have to have a modern lens on that. But if you wanted to be like Robert E. Howard's work, like if I'm competing directly with Robert E. Howard, I'm gonna come up short. But that's not like the genre stuff I write either, though. But like a Hemingway, I feel like I could write anything that Hemingway's written. I have never read any Hemingway where I was blown away like, oh, this guy's on a different level. Yeah, just one, 100%. I'll say that because a lot of people put him up as one of the greatest writers of all time. I think that's a little overblown. I don't find his work challenging.
And you're a fan. You
I like Hemingway. I don't think like now Fitzgerald. I can't compete with The Great Gatsby. Like that writing style and just the metaphor usage and stuff.
What do you think? How do you think you could do like King style?
Yeah, I think no. Again, sounds arrogant. I'm not saying I could be fucking Hemingway or King or anybody like that, or even like a Hunter S. Thompson kind of writer. I'm just saying, like, from the functional standpoint, I could come up with The Shining and write The Shining. It's not going to be Stephen King's The Shining. It's going to be Caleb James's The Shining. But I could tell that story in my own way, and I could at least like to think I could do it justice. Obviously, anytime you do something that's, be compared to the... If I wrote The Shining, it's going to be compared to The Shining.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the idea. It's not wholly original. Some of his stuff, is pretty original, but some of it's just like anyone can come up with that idea.
Well, I guess maybe when I say King, I guess I more meant towards like his acumen towards like storytelling and characters, maybe.
Yeah, I think character development would be a strong point of mine in long written form.
I can say because I haven't read anything of yours
that's real long.
Yeah, that's been long.
That hasn't been like a genre stuff. I think I could like my dialogue's pretty good. I think like you'll have to read the one. I have two stories you actually need to read. I think you'll like both of them a lot.
Yeah,
because I think they're written in a unique, interesting way, and they're my voice. But when it comes to even that short flash fiction I got published by Literally Stories. That even though it only took a couple minutes to write, I felt like that could easily be a funny, hilarious novel if I wanted, about two fucking spirits who they got murdered by a fucking maniac in the woods, and they're both just sitting there grumbling over their bodies about whose fault it was that they got murdered. Like, you fucking asshole, you're the one who went up and talked to him. Like, I guess it's just easy stuff like that. I don't have problems with that. For me, like, where the real difficulty comes from is, if you really want it to be deeper meaning, metaphorical, allegories, like all the real deep, like literature, or like even go into like the Faulkner stuff. But again, not a lot of people like reading that stuff. But as far as just the writing of like a Stephen King, he's not considered a great literary writer for a reason, because his style doesn't necessarily lend it. He touches on it sometimes. Haruki Murakami touches on it more, but even him, and that could be the translation too, because we're never going to understand like what his actual stories are like. But I would say even him, who's considered probably one of the Nobel Prize high nominated, that people are assuming, because you don't know, probably was a runner-up many times for the Nobel Prize in Literature. But popularity and literary ability kind of go hand in hand for him. But if you've read some of his stuff now, would you say it's real literary honestly?
I wouldn't.
Now,
at least from the stuff that I've read so far.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, I mean, that's very subjective of what's considered literary, because he's not necessarily a genre writer. But when you read some of his more challenging works, you start to understand it, but it's still written the same way.
The last two, his first two novels that we just read, I feel like those could maybe be a little bit more literature, because there's no magical realism going on. It's, every day kind of slice of life following these characters, for a certain period of time.
And the funny thing is, other than the actual story being told, I didn't find those two books much different than your run-of-the-mill Hemingway stuff, or, just like simplistic writing and not very deep meaning, honestly. Because Hemingway, it's all this deep meaning stuff. Not too much. I think people like to break things down a lot more than that's really there.
Well, you get that in music and movies and everything. What the author meant, I've seen and heard things when the author said what they've seen and meant, and sometimes it's nothing.
Let's put it this way: I could never write a Moby Dick.
Yeah,
I could write a story about whales. I could never even hope to write something as magical as Moby Dick, minus the whaling stuff. Like, get rid of the whale chapters, and then you actually have a story though that's still like very well written and amazing. I can't write a Poe story because I'm not smart enough. That's basically what it comes down to. I'm not smart enough to write a Poe story. It doesn't matter how much I study.
I say Poe would be one of those other ones where we were talking about earlier about like the academic kind of thing. Yeah. But again, like, I'm not necessarily would want to read that for that. I would be wanting to read that because it's like I've heard things, or I've seen these stories be told in different ways, but I've always wanted to check out like the original, source material and stuff like that. And he's also done the first detective stories, and I like detective stories.
Poe is interesting because he wrote in an academic way. And by academic, I don't mean academic as in like scientific journal style. Just talking about what would be studied in universities, what was considered like a higher end literature. He wrote in that style, but he was one of the first genre guys.
Yeah.
All his stuff is either horror or, you said the first detective story. He didn't write, what he just considered dry literature. Mark Twain was a humorist. He was a satirist. He didn't write dry literature, but he's considered one of the greatest classic lit writers.
There's not enough of that any at all really anymore.
It's like funny, right? Like comedy.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I mean, there's people who, it's a hard line to write something that's funny, but it still could be considered art.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So instead of just your slapstick funny novel, this would be like a Huckleberry Finn, hilarious novel, but obviously very deep meaning.
Or like, it's kind of like the, when you do come across it, it's like that Norm Macdonald book where it's like, it's kind of like a biography, you know what I mean? But like, of just straight fiction that's funny.
Norm Macdonald's book was very great in my opinion because it reminded me of Mark Twain.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that. Before.
Obviously, a lot more crass. Think more Hunter S. Thompson than Mark Twain. But the way it's written, it's like if you had Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, and Mark Twain all combine their forces to write a funny book.
Was all like a fan of, right?
And then threw in fucking prison rape jokes and stuff. Like he just, it's one of those.
You put all those together, then you have his dry delivery.
It catches you off, just like a stand-up comedy. It really catches you off guard because he plays the dumb guy so well, and then you're like, no, this guy's reading fucking Russian literature all the time. He's very intelligent, but he plays the dumb guy, and even in the book, it shows like this. Whoever, even if you didn't know him, you'd read that and be like, this is so goofy and stupid, but whoever wrote this was so fucking smart.
Well, even a lot of times with his like stupid jokes,
they're like real deep.
And then you're like, oh, wait
a minute.
Yeah, which circles all the way back around to us being dumb.
Yep. What makes me mad is we never got another Norm Macdonald book.
Yeah,
I really wish he would have pursued writing because like I said, that was one of my favorite books. Still is one of my favorite books of recent decade.
I would have liked to just see what like a straight up fiction book of what it would have been like from him.
Yeah, what if he just decided to write like an actual literary book? I think he could.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I said, Mark Twain style. But there's not too many even writers in general that come along like that. I want to read some of that David Duchovny stuff because he's very intelligent. Mm-hmm. I would imagine he would touch on that kind of like that rarefied air.
Well, that's why like I don't know if you like noticed it's been a while since you really read any of my stuff since the website's been down. But that's why like I would always try to have some like especially in like the longer form things, like some comedy beats, like you know, just some humor and thrown in there.
I can't remember the last full novel I read that didn't have humor in it. That's a tough one now that I think about it. I know I've read some where I'm just like, probably Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
Outer Dark probably was the last one. Really good book, but it's like once you read that, you're like, you are emotionally drained. You're just like, God damn, is it bleak? Does it ever get better? You read Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian actually might have had some funny parts in it. You read The Road though, not one.
But like, I feel like the Blood Meridian is like that kind of almost like that super dark.
Yeah.
Like you just have to laugh at some things, or you're just gonna be crushed by it all.
Yeah, pretty much. It's fucking rough, but I do like some humor in my work. We should read some more Mark. Well, you need to just read Mark Twain.
Yeah, that is something I need to get. I do need to.
He's one of those guys I wish he would have wrote more as well, because he has a few other things that aren't, as well known, but they're really, like he has that a Yankee in King Arthur's Court. It sounds like it's probably really funny, but that's so dated. I don't know if I would really. Like a lot of his stuff is just, I've read some of his short stories and it's like, oh, the invention of the telephone, the first phone call. This is kind of funny, but I can't really relate to this.
Yeah.
But
especially where you're probably reading the story on your phone and the story's about the first phone call.
I did, yeah. It was very fucking, what a crazy time to be alive. It makes me sick to think that The Great Gatsby is like 100 years old. Like all these works that I love, and I'm just like, oh, that's like, wow, that's a lifetime ago.
And they're all getting redone in with modern twists.
Yeah.
And modern themes.
That's what I like about the classics, Spencer. They're just stuck in that time period, and you don't have to worry about them being updated. But if you focus on modern times, you'll see them updated by fucking hacks all the time. All the time. Anyway. I feel like we could talk about this for 5 hours because it's just a fun topic, but we don't need to. I said I want a 30-minute episode.
That did not happen. I was kept on thinking about pointing to the screen, but
it's all right. Folks, we thank you for listening. If you want to check us out or follow us on social media at DPW Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can follow me at calebjamesk.com. See my work, and also I post podcasts a lot on there. You can follow Spencer. He is the Denver. Do I gotta say it?
Yeah. Yes, you do. No, don't be mad because it's not one you came up with.
The Denver dildo. The Denver dildo dealer. All right.
They're in a trench coat.
Home to home delivery, or
it depends. What are you willing to pay?
Yeah. You can also get banned. So I like to reiterate though. We're not that smart.
We dumb.
We're smart enough to be able to read this stuff, but not necessarily smart enough to understand it.
We're smart enough to realize how dumb we are.
That's a bad place to be, too.
Yeah.
If you're stupid, then you're fine because ignorance is bliss.
Oh my God.
But if you're smart, but not smart enough to do anything with it, you get stuck. Then you know how monotonous life is. You get stuck in a shitty retail job, or maybe at best you're a manager of a Walmart or something. But you wake up or you go to the office and you work 9 to 5 and you realize what a sham life is, but you can't quite figure out how to change it.
How to get out
without making drastic changes to your life. And you're smart enough to know the consequences. Because if you're a little dumber,
you just be like, oh, fuck it. What's the worst that can happen?
Fuck it. I'm going to be an actor. I don't care if I'm homeless for 10 years. And then you become an actor. Or if you're really smart, you'll just be successful and, you'll figure it out. But when you're our level of smart, you're just like, I know the consequences and I don't know how to overcome. Like, I can't, the risk versus reward, I can't balance it right in my head. I can't make the reward seem better than the risk.
Yeah.
I can't risk losing my house to find and fulfill my dream. So you just become fucking middling novelist at best. I wish I was a middling novelist. That's my dream at this point. I just want to be a middling novelist that some people read.
Yes, that would be nice. I read enough that you can maybe take like an extra day off of work.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyway, we thank you for listening, and we will check you out next week. Also, follow A Murakami Minute, final episode this Friday. Actually, it'll be published. Will it be? Fuck it. Listen to it. It's up sometime.